Welcome to the History AI Podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the History AI Podcast, where we fire up the timeline, sprinkle in curiosity, and keep the stories evergreen.
I'm Marco.
I'm Chuck, and quick favor up front. If you enjoy the show, hit subscribe and drop us a 5-star review. It seriously helps the podcast grow and tells the algorithm gods we're worth sharing.
Yes, please. And stick around after the episode for a special treat, our original song, Snow Over Truckee, inspired by today's story.
Speaking of which, today we're diving into the Donner Party, an 1846 wagon train whose gamble on a shortcut became one of the most haunting survival sagas in American history.
We'll keep it humane, factual, and focused. What happened, why it happened, and what it teaches us about leadership, logistics, and luck. And as always, we're powered by the latest AI architecture for up-to-date, efficient performance, with episodes designed to stay relevant anytime you press play.
Buckle up, let's roll.
Let's widen the lens before we hit the trail. It's the mid-1840s in the United States. The population is booming, newspapers are buzzing about manifest destiny, and the country's just added Texas in 1845, while negotiating the Oregon boundary with Britain settled in 1846. President Polk is basically running on coast to coast or bust. The economy's rebounding from the panic of 1837, farmland in the older states is getting carved up and pricey, and people are thinking, if I want land and a future, I may have to go where the maps get vague.
Meanwhile, the West isn't empty space. It's the homeland of dozens of indigenous nations, Shoshone, Paiute, Washoe, Miwok, and many more, each with their own territories, trade, and diplomacy. And California, still Mexican Alta California in 1846, centered on ranchos and missions, with American traders and overland migrants trickling in, especially through hubs like Sutter's Fort in the Sacramento Valley.
Look beyond the US, and the push factors stack up. Industrialization is reshaping work in Britain and the Northeast. The Irish potato famine, starting 1845, is driving mass migration to American ports, swelling cities and stoking the sense that cheap Western land equals escape velocity. Europe's on the cusp of the revolutions of 1848, but the unrest is already in the air. In short, there's a global shuffle, and the American West looks like opportunity. If you can get there,
getting there is the catch. The playbook in 1846 is take a steamboat up the Missouri River to outfitting towns like Independence or St. Joseph, Missouri, then roll out in late April or May with oxen. Slower than mules, but sturdier, aiming for 10 to 15 miles a day on the Oregon-California Trail. You travel in companies for safety and labor, circle wagons to corral stock, post guards at night, share chores, argue about when to ford rivers versus build rafts. Democracy with blisters.
And logistics are everything. You're hauling flour, bacon, beans, coffee, salt, spare axles and wheels, tar for repairs, rifles for hunting, kettles, canvas, and a tiny library of advice, trail guides and rumor. The clock is merciless. Leave too early and there's no grass for your stock. Leave too late and the Sierra Nevada or Blue Mountains will lock up with snow. Most migrants shoot for midsummer in the Rockies and California by early fall.
Which brings us to the people who will become the Donner Party. In spring 1846, families from Illinois and nearby, George and Jacob Donner, James F. Reed, their relatives, hired hands, and kids, joined the wagon train stream. They're not thrill-seekers. They're middle American strivers with furniture lashed under canvas and kids riding on feed boxes.
Their edge, at least on paper, is Lansford Hastings' fresh guidebook touting a shiny new shortcut. The Hastings Cutoff, south of the Great Salt Lake, over the Wasatch, then across the desert to rejoin the main trail. Fewer miles, faster progress, supposedly. In a world where newspaper hype travels faster than verified trail reports, that pitch is intoxicating.
And the social dynamics matter. Wagon companies are coalitions, part PTA meeting, part startup, part neighborhood watch. You need a leader, but you also need buy-in. Disagreements over pace, rest days, and river crossings can snowball into factions. If someone you trust says the cutoff's safe, will save weeks, you're not just weighing miles, you're weighing group cohesion.
So in a United States high on expansion, with global pressures nudging people west and a very tight weather window, The Donna Reed group makes the fateful choice that defines their year. Trust the shortcut. On a map, it's a cleaner line. On the ground, it's brush, canyons, alkali, and a calendar that won't blink. So by the time the Sierra rises in front of them, the shortcut debt is fully due. They reach the eastern approach to the pass in late October 1846, push for the ridge, and the sky just unloads. Heavy, early snow turns the last climb into a white wall. They try again between squalls, but drifts rebuild faster than a wagon can crawl. The pass is shut.
With the ridge blocked, they drop back to the basin, today's Donner Lake, because shelter and wood beat freezing on an exposed slope. Families cluster and start throwing up rough cabins from green timber. Think log walls, canvas roofs, mud chinking that won't set because it's too cold, and smoke that refuses to draft.
The camp naturally divides. Several families, Breen, Graves, Murphy among them, huddle near the lake in 3 primary cabins and a few lean-tos. A few miles back at Alder Creek, the Donner families, already slowed by a wagon mishap and George Donner's infected hand, erect tents and then a rough cabin under the trees. 2 encampments, 1 fate.
Food is the metronome, and it's ticking faster every day. Early on, they slaughter what cattle they can find under the snow crust. Some carcasses freeze where they lay. Others are buried by storms. When the easy meat is gone, they start scraping marrow from cracked bones, boiling hides into a gluey soup, and cutting rations to ounces.
Daily life compresses into rituals of survival. At first light, someone kicks free the hearth, coaxes a coal into flame, and melts snow for water. Kids gather brush, adults fell timber, someone patrols for any sign of game. Nights are an orchestra of creaking logs, wind, and hungry bellies.
They don't just wait, they try. Multiple scouting attempts lunge for the pass on foot. Parties climb until their legs go numb in waist-deep powder and then retreat. The snowpack stacks storm upon storm, feet on feet, until the forest looks like a staircase of white.
Morale becomes weather-dependent. A clear morning feels like hope. A new front rolling in feels like the end of the world. Arguments simmer over who has stores left, whose oxen were used, who should share what. Cabin walls keep out wind, not tension.
And then the conversation turns to a grim calculus. If rescue won't reach us, we have to reach rescue. They fabricate snowshoes, wood frames lashed with rawhide, and select a strike team. Roughly 15 set out in mid-December, later remembered as the Forlorn Hope. It's a desperate plan. Climb out, cross unknown snow country, and find the settlements to the west.
The conditions punish every step. Glare ice on slopes, blizzards that erase the horizon, sun that burns the eyes when it does appear. They ration crumbs and scrape frost from beards. Some turn back, some collapse, a few push on with a stubborn, exhausted rhythm. The Forlorn Hope becomes both legend and lifeline, because if even a handful makes it, help can find the camps.
Back at the lake in Alder Creek, the math grows harder. Firewood means energy. Energy means warmth. Warmth means the ability to fetch more wood. Any break in that chain, injury, illness, sheer fatigue, and a cabin's chances dip. They rotate labor, guard meager caches, and try to keep children still to save calories.
The cabins are also little hospitals. Frostbite, malnutrition, infection. This is frontier medicine with few tools. George Donner's wounded hand worsens. Coughs spread in close quarters. Sleep is thin and crowded. People whisper prayers over embers.
And winter won't let up. The storms keep stacking. Trails vanish overnight. Even finding yesterday's woodpile can require digging. When a clear day cracks open, they race to dry clothes, reset traps, and check the lake ice for any sign of fish. Usually nothing.
Yet there's stubborn humanity in the snow. Families rotate watches so neighbors can rest. Someone reads a Bible passage. Someone else tells a story to keep a child from crying. A spare scrap of tallow gets shared. If the Donner story teaches anything, it's that endurance isn't just muscle, it's community, even when that community is threadbare.
Weeks blur. The calendar flips to 1847. Out beyond the pass, the Forlorn Hope, what's left of them, stagger toward ranches in the Sacramento Valley. Back at the camps, the survivors live hour to hour, measuring time by the hiss of snow on the roof and the crack of a splitting log.
And then finally, a rumor turns into footprints. Relief is coming, but not all at once, not for everyone, and not without new trials. That's where we head next. The rescues, the reckonings, and the long walk back into the world.
The camps have settled into that brutal winter rhythm. when, far to the west, ragged members of the Forlorn Hope finally stagger into the Sacramento Valley. Their story jolts settlers into action. Supplies are scraped together at Sutter's Fort and Johnson's Ranch, and the First Relief fights through storms toward the lake camps in mid-February 1847. On February 19th, rescuers reach Truckee, Donner Lake, and begin pulling people out, carefully, slowly, because too much food too fast can kill. 23 refugees go down with them.
That first team caches food along the climb, little lifelines buried in snow, so they can move faster. Even so, some rescuers peel off. 7 push on. They find cabins swallowed by drifts, ox-hide roofs rotting, air thick with smoke and sickness. They gather children from Alder Creek too, where George Donner lies bedridden with a gangrenous arm.
Hot on their heels comes the Second Relief, led by James F. Reed, separated from the party months earlier and now muscling back over the pass to save his family. With better supplies and a staging base in Bear Valley, they reach the camps around March 1st, rally whoever can travel, and start down, only to be smashed by another blizzard on the pass itself.
That storm creates the grim waypoint, later called Starved Camp, survivors too weak to move. With overlapping relief parties and collapsing weather, families split. Rescuers face triage in a whiteout, choosing between saving a few now or risking everyone.
Enter the Third Relief, driven by Forlorn Hope survivors William Eddy and William Foster, desperate for their children. They recruit help, including John Stark. On the trail, they hit Starved Camp. 2 hired men each grab a child and retreat, but Stark refuses to abandon the rest. He shuttle carries the entire group, mostly kids, 9 lives in all, through deep snow in repeated trips. It's one of the winter's quiet epics.
The Third Relief reaches Truckee Lake on March 14th to devastating news. Eddy's and Foster's children are gone. They press to Alder Creek, where Tamsin Donner refuses to leave her dying husband. The rescuers bring out the Donner girls and a few others, then head west again, drained.
By April, a Fourth Relief reaches the lake. They find Louis Kesselberg alive among the dead, the last to come down, and he'll wear the weight of rumor for the rest of his life. Within weeks, the final survivors limp into Sutter's Fort. In June, a military party returns to bury remains and burn the ruined cabins.
Now the ledger. Roughly 89 people touch the broader Donner story. About 81 are snowbound, 48 survive, around half. Women and children survive at higher rates than men. All 4 Donner adults are gone. Statistics, yes, but each number is a household shattered or saved.
Aftermath ripples outward. Survivors arrive gaunt and frost-scarred, and instantly famous. Some rebuild quickly. Marriages at the fort, ranch work, land. Others live under a fog of headlines and half-truths. California remembers not just the suffering, but the courage of rescuers, settlers, indigenous guides and laborers, volunteers who kept climbing back into the storm.
And the reckoning is practical as well as moral. After 1847, emigrants pay closer attention to timing, stick to tested routes over miracle shortcuts, and clarify chain of command inside wagon companies. The Donner story becomes a case study in cascading delays, fractured leadership, and how rescue arrives, in waves, imperfect but determined. Let's break down the lessons. First up, logistics. The wagon train economy is fragile. Your margin for error is tiny when your engine is an ox pulling 2,000 pounds of everything you own.
Supplies are your runway. Lose time, and the runway shortens. Lose oxen, and your runway crumbles. The Hastings Cutoff burned precious time and energy, and every downstream decision got harder.
Second, leadership. The group didn't have a single, unquestioned leader with the authority to force consensus under stress. Splits and tensions, especially after incidents like James Reed's earlier conflict, made unity tougher.
Third, information quality. A guidebook promise and some frontier rumor can look like data, but they aren't the same as verified reconnaissance. It's the 1846 version of trusting a blog post over a map and a weather report.
Fourth, sunk cost fallacy. Once you choose the shortcut and invest days cutting a road through the brush, it gets harder to say, "We were wrong, turn back." The desire to be right can be fatal on a ticking clock.
Fifth, weather and probability. Frontier travelers knew snow was coming sometime in late fall, but sometime became now. Preparing for the 90th percentile of bad outcomes, not just the average, can be the difference between hardship and disaster.
And finally, resilience and community. The rescuers who slogged uphill through storms, the families who shared scraps, the kids who kept going. This isn't a story only about catastrophe. It's also about the stubborn, generous edge of human nature.
Let's play quick myth versus reality.
Myth: the Donner Party were naive thrill-seekers. Reality: they were mostly families, ordinary people, persuaded by a persuasive shortcut narrative and the hope of opportunity.
Myth: they could have easily made it if they'd walked faster. Reality: they were already weeks behind. After the cutoff detour, their teams were exhausted and early heavy snow hit hard. Just hustle doesn't beat blizzards with wagons and children.
Myth: cannibalism defined the group. Reality: it occurred among some during the most extreme phases, but many never engaged in it. And even among those who did, it was driven by survival in extraordinary circumstances.
Myth: Hastings knew the route was perfect. Reality: he was selling a vision more than a proven path. Outcomes show the gap between speculation and reality.
Myth: nothing good came of this. Reality: it's tragic, but it also reshaped how migrants approached timing, planning, and route choice. Later travelers were a little more skeptical about miracle shortcuts.
Let's turn the Donner tragedy into a field guide. First, risk architecture. They weren't sunk by one mistake but by a chain: an unvetted shortcut, schedule slippage, exhausted teams, fuzzy leadership, then early storms. Modern takeaway: map interdependencies. Ask, if this slips 2 weeks, what do the next 3 steps look like? Build contingencies at each link, not just at the finish line.
Second, information hygiene. Hastings' pitch wasn't peer-reviewed. Today, that's the slick memo or viral thread. Use a bias checklist. What's the source's incentive? What's observation versus inference? What evidence would falsify it? Treat unverified guidance as experimental, not operational.
Third, buffers beat bravado. On the trail, grass and daylight were buffers. In projects, it's budget, headcount, calendar slack. If your plan works only when everything goes right, it isn't a plan, it's theater. Create explicit reserves you're proud to defend.
Fourth, decision rights under stress. Wagon democracy helped buy-in but slowed snap calls. Pre-assign who decides what, using which criteria, and when debate ends. Write it down before you're knee-deep in snow.
Fifth, the sunk cost trap. After cutting road through the Wasatch, turning back felt like failure. Embed kill switches. If we're X days behind or Y resources down by date Z, we revert to the proven path. Make the rule public so pride can't bury it.
Sixth, logistical physics. Oxen were capacity. Lose teams and every remaining yoke hauls more, moves slower, burns time, loss compounds. Modern move: when a key resource fails, don't just spread the load. Rescope so the engine you have can still crest the pass.
Seventh, probabilistic weather. They planned for average fall. A 90th percentile storm arrived. Think in distributions, not dates. Ask, what if the tail shows up? Run tail risk drills. Who speaks, what we cut, where we shelter.
Eighth, morale as infrastructure. The cabins ran on routine: melt snow, gather wood, tell stories, rotate watch. In teams, protect one stabilizing ritual in crisis. Daily stand-ups, visible status boards, no blame reviews. Predictability lowers panic.
Ninth, ethical clarity and scarcity. Cold and hunger make good choices harder. Pre-state non-negotiables, safety, honesty, consent, so you're not inventing ethics at midnight in a storm.
10th, rescue is a relay, not a miracle. Help came in waves with gaps. Plan recovery in stages. Triage the most fragile first, stage caches of resources, and accept uneven pacing. Logistics plus patience.
11th, narrative discipline. One sensational detail hijacked the Donner story for generations. In organizations, one dramatic moment can mythologize a failure. Counter with full-stack debriefs, timeline, causes, choices, weather, luck, so you fix what's fixable.
12th, local knowledge. Mountain peoples knew passes, forage, seasons. Today that's frontline staff, domain veterans, community partners. Bring them in early, pay them, heed them. A 2-hour consult can save a season.
Boil it down. Verify claims, defend buffers, assign decisions, pre-plan exits, rescope when engines fail, think in distributions, ritualize morale, guard ethics, stage rescues, tell the whole story, and pay for local expertise. Not just survival in 1846, but resilience today. Spring edges in like a slow apology. By late March and April 1847, the storms thin, drifts settle, and the timberline peeks through. Relief parties can finally move with a little speed, so the last survivors come out in staggered groups, bundled in blankets, half carried over the crest, then walked and sledged down to Bear Valley, Johnson's Ranch, and eventually Sutter's Fort. Each hop is careful. Feed cautiously, rest, warm them up, then move again before the weather turns fickle.
That first night off the mountain is its own shock. Imagine trading a smoke-choked cabin for a fire that doesn't leak snow, a cup of broth you're allowed to finish, a bed that isn't pine boughs. Bodies begin the long climb back, swollen joints, raw lungs, eyes wincing at sudden light.
News outruns wagons. At ranches and way stations, people whisper, "Are these the Donner folks?" Volunteers pass hats for clothes and shoes. Doctors reintroduce food in sips and spoonfuls because too much, too fast can kill. Kids cling to rescuers like they're gravity.
Newspapers in the valleys print lists and breathless accounts. Who made it, who didn't, which families were separated, what the cabins looked like. Rumor swirls around the sensational, while the quieter mercies, someone sharing the last scrap of hide, someone carrying 2 children at a time, struggle for ink.
There's a bureaucratic last mile, too. Names are tallied, affidavits taken, reimbursements argued over for supplies and labor. Some survivors stabilize quickly, marriages at the fort, ranch work, a rented room. Others head south or east, trying to outrun notoriety that sticks like pitch.
Back at the lake, the mountains get a coda. Late spring into early summer, military parties return to bury remains where they can and burn what shouldn't be left standing. The cabins disappear into the trees. What remains is the place, and the stories people carry home.
The social reckoning lingers. Certain individuals become lightning rods, vilified by some, defended by others. Testimonies conflict, memory, trauma, and pride knot together. But most accounts converge on a simple ledger. Timing killed, weather killed, and the compound interest of risky decisions killed.
And the trail learns. Depart earlier, doubt miracle shortcuts, establish decision rights, stock more, pay for local knowledge. In seasons that follow, you can feel a new caution on the emigrant road, like a steadying hand on the reins when someone says, "There's a faster way."
Geography remembers too. The lake keeps the name. Passes, peaks, and markers pin the story to the landscape, so travelers who glide over in July still read a sign that whispers, "Slow down. This ridge once decided lives."
For survivors, the true last mile takes years. Some build ordinary, prosperous lives. Some can't outrun nightmares or gossip. A few speak at length. Many never want to talk about it again. The Donner story leaves the mountains, but it doesn't leave them.
Which is why we study it. The facts are hard, the lessons usable, about planning, humility, and community under stress. If memory is a map, the Donner Party draws a bright symbol on the legend. Beware the alluring line that promises to skip the mountain. That's our episode on the Donner Party. Somber but important. If this is your first time with us, welcome. The History AI podcast is built on the latest AI architecture for up-to-date, efficient performance, and our episodes are crafted to be evergreen, meaning they stay relevant whenever you press play.
We've also got new merch, shirts, mugs, the works. Check the link in the show notes to peek at the designs. If you pick something up, tag us on social so we can see it.
Got a topic you want us to cover? Send your ideas via our social channels. We read them all. Your suggestions genuinely shape the show.
Before we go, a huge thank you to our listeners. Your support keeps the mics on and the stories flowing. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, subscribe, and share. And a 5-star review really helps more folks discover the show.
Special thanks to everyone who's already left those stars, and to our producer who reminds us when a shortcut is not a strategy.
Next time, we'll dig into another moment where tiny decisions have massive consequences. Until then,
Stay curious.
We left Springfield in the summer sun. Dreams of gold and a life begun. Oxen low and down a dust-worn track. No one knew we'd never come back. sang like a lullaby, and the mountains shimmered cruel and high. They said the Hastings Cutoff saved some days, but the devil hides in the easy ways. Snow over Truckee, cold on the bone. We were so many, now I walk alone. Dreams froze silent under God's wide dome. Snow over Truckee, never go home. Wagon stuck in the mountain pass, we burned our wheels and the window glass. The children cried when the rations died. We prayed for mercy, but the sky just lied. By candlelight and dying flame, we spoke no word but felt the shame. Sang hymns through the broken pine, while hunger turned our hearts to crime. Snow over Truckee, cold on the bone. We were so many, now I walk alone. Dreams froze silent under God's wide dome. Snow over Truckee, never go home. Tell them we tried, tell them we fought, tell them salvation can't be bought. A trail of ghosts beneath the white, still wander there when it's quiet at night. Snow over Truckee, mercy's light. The mountains keep what they deny. If you hear the wind when the cold moon's high, it's the dawn of the dead who never said goodbye. Snow over Truckee,